Welcome to Deep Thought, the metaphysics of developing your craft. You know what? When we talk about metaphysics, what's going on below the surface, subliminal stuff, sometimes we see it as like some magical thing, where you have to meditate for 20 hours and use some special herbs. I was going to say special sauce. Hey, that too. Where, you chanting something in a language you don't understand. But it's just as important. And really, what I would call everyone's ministry, regardless of their path, but their ministry is their specialty, to develop your craft. And your craft could be anything. I thought about this last week when I was having my barber bless me, right? He had to shape up my lopsided head, and but when he got started, it was interesting. The blades wasn't cutting right at first. He couldn't figure out what happened. But then an older gentleman came in. He came in very confident. He had his little cigarette, or I think he had one of those electric things in his mouth. Y'all ever see those old dudes, old brothers especially? I ain't never seen white dudes do it, but you seen those old brothers, they can go and they be like facing a car or something, and they having that cigarette dangling out their mouths. Say, yeah, man, you just need to tune up here, and they be talking and stuff, and it's like, I don't know, it must be something to it. Those who practice African spiritual traditions, they'll just say that's a Sebek or a Legba, Ishu, depending on it, that thing with the cigar or cigarette, right? Anyway, the older gentleman came in and he saw what was happening. He said, yeah, man, it's just this timing thing on here, And you could tell he was a master barber, right? There is something, and this is something I touched on before, but I think it's important. Now, I've touched on this especially for men to have a craft. And it's really important for every single person to have something that they focus on doing very well. At least one thing. Men especially, but women can develop it as well, because it really puts you on the reason that you're here. It's tied to your destiny. Now, I know we talked about, whether or not destiny is changeable. And, that was one of those questions. It depends on a person's personal preference or whatever, But so we won't get into that. But in developing your craft, but see, let's take barbering. In order to develop it, there's a lot of other skills you have to develop. Because think about it, you're not just cutting hair in a vacuum. You got to develop people skills. Also, you have to have an eye for beauty. Because basically, you're making the person look good. And that's a barber, hairdresser, anything. You're making a person look good. If you want to get good at the profession, any profession, you got to learn all the nuances of it. Now, this master barber was able to do something. And the guy's a young guy. And I'm the type, I give young guys a chance if they do well. And the young guy's actually been really developing. He's been moving up. He's getting better and better. But that's part of his craft, too. It's something because you learn it. Because typically, if you're in any craft, one, there's a certain hierarchy. Very seldom do people jump in and just jump into any craft and just learn it. Usually there's some type of mentor or some guidance. Well, yeah, like a male or female. It could be, it could be as simple as cooking Sunday dinners. You have a lot of cooks out there, and where they learn it from? They learn it from some elder, male or female, who knew how to cook Sunday dinner. There's little nuances. It's like, Oh yeah, they put a little salt here. Now I know they got classes and stuff, and that's part of it. Now I mean, you could take the class, but then just really getting into it, really getting into the craft of it. You know, it is that regardless of whatever. I mean, you could be somebody who's a gardener, right? You can be a gardener, but if that is what you feel called to do, and you really find some enjoyment with it, there's so much you can do with it. There's so many places you could take it. So it's very important. It's very important that you really learn it. It's really important that you really get it. So I mean, it's something that you develop to the point that it does become a part of your spirit. You know, it's like the car mechanic. One time I had this shade tree car mechanic, and I mean he didn't have a computer or anything. He just listened to some things. He was able to tell me everything wrong with the car. All I did was rev the engine for him a few times. He was like, "Oh yeah, tune up. All right, yeah, you need to deal with this." Drive it along and say, "Yeah, you need to get that wheel balanced." That's part of it, and it becomes a part of your spirit. Because have you noticed that anybody's who's good at anything, it don't matter. It could be something small. It could be public speaking. It could be making YouTube videos. As they get more into it and have a desire to learn it. But see, everybody has something. Remember, everybody, when they come into the world, they have something that they want to do. They have something, and that becomes a part of their spirit. But see, it's not just for themselves. Let me say that again. It's not just for themselves. Because ultimately, we live in a community. We live in a social system. When people learn stuff, it's just as important that they teach it. Once people reach a mastery of anything, it's important. They really reach the mastery when they learn how to teach and transmit what they've learned. That's when somebody, and that is just as spiritual. That is just as metaphysical. Because you're passing on a body of knowledge. And it's deeper than just money, because every craft ain't gonna make you any money. It's nice, but it's not. But it's still just as important. Someone who knows how to plant, and especially stuff with YouTube and stuff, like somebody who just knows how to plant a good backyard garden. They could actually like teach people, not even for the money, just teach them just to be teaching them. That spread stuff. Whenever we have gifts, whenever we learn something, it's not really just for us. I mean, it's part of it, it's part of our development, but it's also to really help other people as well. To show them a certain way of doing things, to help develop them. To help them to grow. Because one thing with young people, everyone is looking for that. Now, somebody might have something to help this one young person. Somebody could have something to help this other person. And not even just for young, really. Someone could they can really learn something, when they get older. Some people don't get into what their craft, their vocation, their real thing until they get older. Because you know how it is when you're younger. Sometimes you get a family, you get caught up, you just get on the wrong path. But then you're introduced to something. And like I said, this is everything. This is everything. And I mean, it can seem mundane, like being a barber, a mechanic. It could be being a salesperson. It could be, I've worked as a merchandiser before, one of my 1,001 jobs. I really learned how to do display, like put together displays. Like really like take some shirts and fold them in such a way to make them enticing. But that's a craft as well. Like one of the things with a craft, there's no craft that's less important than the other. If you really look at everything, we need it all. Sometimes we live in a culture which try to say this person's job is more important than this one, but no, it's not. What if we didn't have the people who dress mannequins? Or what if we didn't have the people who kept cars running? Or cut hair? Or know how to plant food? Where would we be? Or the artists. How bland this world would look if we didn't have people whose sole job was to make it look pretty. It was to express themselves through art, through song, whatever. Every gift is needed. So it's very important when you come in, just respect your gift. Don't think in terms of money. That's for the business channel. And yes, you can monetize it. But the ultimate thing with it is to develop it, to bring it out, and to share that gift. Because it's very important. So, and that leads to spirit. And really, I believe it. In fact, I don't have to say I believe. I know it would make the world a better place if everyone was expressing and sharing their gifts and developing their craft. So, I mean, and it's so many ways you can look at it, but like everything is important. Everything means something. It could be a gift. It could be a gift just being able to make people feel good, or bringing out something in people. I remember I worked at this, I was selling books at this vendor's market or flea market, whatever you want to call it, right? And I remember there was a young woman there. She had Down syndrome. And she would always, I don't know, she could make everybody feel good. And she always, could hug everybody, even the thugs that walked around there sometimes. even the thugs, they be like, hey, how you doing? Like, if anybody mess with her, they'd put a bullet in them. But she had that gift of bringing out something. And actually, you'll find that with a lot of quote-unquote special needs type of people. They do bring something out of people, and that itself is a gift. And maybe even a sacrifice, not to be quote-unquote normal, but to really bring something out, to bring out somebody's heart or something. That's their purpose. So anyone, any craft you got, any gift you got, definitely develop it. So, as always, think on this. Let's keep rising and transforming. Peace.